Hey everybody, Vanessa Redder, and I'm going to walk you through assembling a Rookie Chef Island cart. We will take it step by step so you know exactly what to do. So go ahead and unpack your box and we'll take a picture of how it should look and what would be easiest and what we need first. So go ahead, unpack your box.
Okay, so what I like to do is I just like to make sure all the parts are there. You know, you don't want to get into it and realize you don't have the screws you need. I use a little itty bitty drill just because it's easy and small. If you use a screwdriver, you probably are going to want to go around and retighten with a drill or something.
Okay, so for the first step, we're going to need the bag of #1 screws and the bag of 16. And then we're going to take these and we're just going to, here are the screws, we're just going to screw them into these 6 holes that to attach the extension to the butcher block top. So go ahead and screw those in. So just to answer a question, so there's when you flip this, there's a side that it'll close all the way, and then a side on, this is the part number 16 that we're hooking the hinge onto and then a part that won't close all the way. That's the only amount it'll close. That bump, we want that sticking up when we put this into.
Just one there. Okay, so our next step is to attach more hinges to I call them wings that hold up the extension when it's up. So we'll attach those with the same #1 screws. Remember, keep the hump side up. All right, so here we are. You can see that they're attached. A little bit of a tip, I always like to put the outside ones in first before I put the middle one in, or it can get all cattywampus. So let's go to the next thing. Okay, so our next step is to add these. You can see it's baggie number 6 and 7, and there's tall ones and short ones. The short ones are what we're going to put in these little holes right here, and these are what keep the wings supporting the extension when it's lifted. So go ahead and put your dowels in. Okay, so I've got the first one in. It's not easy to get in because it's a dowel. It needs to stay in the wood, so I just kind of hammered it with the end of my drill and it went in just fine. Maybe try that. All right, so that's what your dowels should look like after you put them in. There's the other one. Alrighty, on to the next. Okay, so for now we are done working on the butcher block top. So we're just going to move this out of the way. I will suggest for you to put the flip up extension on your left hand side. See, so I just got it out of the way and we're going to go ahead and work on that once we put all the rest parts of it together. Injury not included. Here we have the drawer slides. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these apart. There's 2 pieces. The small part we will use later and attach to the drawer. The big part we're going to attach to the large sides of the cart. So go ahead and take the small parts out. I know this is terrible, but it might make your hands a little sticky. See, I wasn't lying. Now do the other one and then set the small pieces aside. Okay, so as you can see here, I have the end pieces, the sides of the island cart. And they are sides, let's refocus, C and D. So we're going to use side C first. Okay, so we started on side C, and I have the legs to my right and the top to my left. And you'll notice that this is furthest away from me, and the small part goes in the back and the larger part goes in the front. You'll see that the holes line up properly when you do it like that, if you don't move it like I just did. And you'll also notice that the drawer slides allows you to in and out. So that's how you know you have it properly aligned. So now, in all my generosity, I have shown you now both C and D. So now you'll be able to see which way to put it on. So you're going to use #1 screws again and go ahead and put those in the holes that are lined up, and we'll start with the next step. So if we were looking at them side by side, C and D would look just like that. These are a little confusing, so that's why I'm spending a little extra time on it. Okay, so I went ahead and put part 24 on top so that you could see how it works. And you'll notice that when it slides out, it stops. This is what prevents the drawer from falling out. So that's how you could just double check you have it correct. Okay, so these are the pieces you're going to need for the towel rack. So there's piece E, piece G. You're going to need 2 dowel rods, number 6. You're going to need the screws to hold in the rod, and then 2 number 14s. Okay, so be aware that the dowel rods, the little dowels, they go in the second hole. There's one that it just slides right into, and there's one you kind of have to force it into. So go with the bottom one, which will actually end up being the top one. So the next thing that we're going to put on are the brackets for the tip out tray. So you can put your number 1 screws away and get out your number 3s, and then of course the pieces 25 and 26. They'll go on each side. Okay, so here we are. We have the slide attached, and now we have the tip out tray that we're going to attach. It's very confusing. It could go several ways. What you should know is that the part that sticks up is on the outer side. So these are side specific. I've also attached the other one, or laid the other one out on side D. So there the holes are, and it'll wrap right in there, and that'll create the tip out tray. Again, over here on the, oops, it's the smaller holes, here and here. So there you go. And that's how you know they're on the right side. Now use your number 3 screws to screw them in. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. This is where, if you're going to mess it up, this is the next step is where you're going to do it, because it's really easy to get the sides turned around. So we're going to go slow and we're going to take it step by step, but this is probably the most important part, or you're going to have to undo it and then redo it again. Watch carefully. Okay, so in an effort not to get these confused, C side and C side on the C side and the D side on the D side, that's very important. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put the magnets on the doors. So you'll need your number 1 screws and the little packet of magnets. So it's 12 and 13, and we'll put those together right here. You're going to want to make sure that the 2 little holes are facing up so you can attach the magnet to those. That'll be the inside of the door. All right, so this is what it should look like. There's little divots in this. The flat side is flat onto the cabinet door. So then you'll still have this piece, which will then on the cart attach just like that. Okay, so we'll do that to both cabinet doors. This is what the bag will look like for you to use the number 2 screws. Okay, so this is important because when you put the screw in, don't tighten it too much. It'll either break the plastic or break the screw. So it doesn't need to be on super tight. Just let it go. So this is really funny. I just told you not to over tighten it because it will break it. Look what I did. I over tightened it. This is what will happen if you over tighten it. Okay, so I've moved side R off to the side, and I've put our doors back in. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach the handles to the doors. So you'll know the inside from the outside because the inside will have that metal attachment. So the screws will go back here, and the handle part will go on this side. Okay, so I don't want you to panic. These screws set in, and there's not a lot of leeway on the other side. So just be aware that there's short screws and they don't go in very far. Okay, so next we're going to take piece K, and that is the front of the drawer where everything attaches to it. It doesn't have, over here, it doesn't have these lines where it holds the drawer in. So we want this drawer. So we're going to take, this is actually the side that the tip out tray goes on. So we're going to take the number 4 set of screws, and we're going to go in here like this all the way across. but don't put them in all the way. Leave a little bit of leeway because the tip out trays will have the screw hole and it'll slide on down. So be sure to leave enough room for that. Okay, go ahead and put in your number 4 screws. Okay, so here's what I did. I left them up just a little bit. Now I'm gonna maybe need to go back and screw them in a little bit more once the tip out trays are attached, but they might be just fine also. So we'll find out when we attach the tip out trays. All right, you know the drill. We're gonna go ahead and put the screws on this side and we'll attach the handle on the other side. Let's do that. Okay, so what I've done is I've attached one side and the other side, it seems like the handle might be a little too long. It's not. You just kind of have to move it in a little, but you can see as, I kind of scratched it moving this around, so I must have tightened the other side too tight. Just be careful you don't scratch yours. All right, so there it is, the 4 tip out tray screws and the 2 screws for the handle and the handle. Moving on. Okay, so I've set the drawer aside now and we're gonna get out the S piece and the T piece. Now, this is the part where everything gets confused. Now, we would need to remember that the holes go on the extension side and the non-holes create the shelf. So this is where the doors will be, this is where the shelves will be. So make sure you have that right or you're gonna have to undo it. All right, here's another tricky part. So we're getting ready to put the partition in. And so we see we still have side S and side T over there. And we have the holes closest to the flip up extension. We're gonna need number 14 screws and we're gonna need 2 of them. And we're gonna screw them in from underneath. So I'm actually gonna turn it on its side. Okay, so before I turn it on its side, the partition should face the towel rack once it's installed, and the short side, I don't know if you can see that very well, the short side is on the top because once we flip it right side up, the shelf will rest right on here on the bottom. So when you are attaching the pieces, you'll flip it up so that the magnet is up and there's a hole here with an indentation allowing you to screw the side into it. So there are 2 sides to the partition and you should know that the side that has like the divot in it is the outside. All right, so let's just make sure what we have is right. So we have this attached to side S. The short part of the partition where the shelf will sit is on top. It will eventually be on bottom. And the magnet is facing out, and side S shows where the holes for the cabinet door will go. So just making sure everything is right before we go and attach side T. Okay, so here we are again, just making sure we have everything right. We have the magnet on the outside with the flat side of the partition. We have the partition with the small side on the bottom. Okay, so we're attaching side D to the island cart. Put it in so that the line matches where the screw is going to go in. So now put that screw into the outside of the cart. Okay, still on side D, we now have the RTF fitting in here. We have screwed it in on the other side, and now we're going to do the same thing to the other side of the cart. Another important note, so when you have the RTF fitting and you're using the Allen wrench to screw it into the other side, you may have to give it a little pressure because you need to make sure, and you can kind of see it when you're screwing it in, you need to make sure it catches in that fitting so that it holds tightly and secures it. Next, we're going to do the same thing to side C. So we've attached side D and the drawer slides are facing us. The tip out tray is on the other side. So let's just make sure we have it right. Tip out tray on the other side and drawer slides facing us. Now, this is really important because we still have to put the middle bar in between. So although we're going to attach it, we're not going to make it very tight. We're going to keep it so that we can put the middle bar into the partition so that we can have shelves and cabinets. I find it easier when I'm trying to get the screw into the RTF fitting that I pull the side out just a little bit to make sure it's going to grab, and then I push it back in and screw it in because now it's going to grab perfectly. Remember, don't make it too tight. Okay, so I've put the RTF fitting in and I put the screw in, but see how it's not tight, it is loose. We need it like that. We need it to be that way so we can put the other pieces in. Do the same thing to the other side and keep that side loose as well. All right, now it's time to put the partition in. So we're going to remember that that top section right up there is going to face that way. And on the other side are the cabinet doors so that they can shut and magnetically close. So let's go ahead and attach those. Now this is why we needed to keep one side looser, because what we're going to do is we're going to put these dowels in the little holes down here so that the partition, actually side S will fit on there, and we need leeway room to put both dowels in. All right, so as you're looking at it, you can see that the shelf is on this side and the doors are on this side with the holes facing up so that the dowels can go in there and have swinging doors. I did not loosen the RTF fittings enough, so I had to go back and loosen them up to get that rod back, to get S in. But now I'm going to go back and tighten them up, which is what you should do too. Okay, so now what we're going to do is attach the wings to the sides of the pieces here and here. You'll need those number 1 screws again, and you'll just put these on there. Super easy. Or go to the other side of the cart because we're going to attach the drawer to the tip out tray to the mechanism. I think it's easier to come from this side and just work through it, but do whatever feels comfortable for you. Okay, so we remember that this is piece K and that we didn't tighten up all the screws because we had to put the tip out trays on them. Now you can see we're going to attach the mechanisms to these little spots right here. And we're going to do that from right there. I think it's easier to come from this side though. So you're going to need your number 3 screws to do this, and we'll put them right in there. Okay, so that's what that looks like. They're attached on both sides and onto our net. Okay, so now we're going to slide the cabinet doors in before we put the bottom piece on. It'll just makes more sense that way. So get your number 15s, and go ahead and put them in the holes right down there on both sides, and then slide your cabinet door in. Okay, so the doors are in, but if they're not flush, then something's wrong. We've done something wrong. Something went wrong someplace, because it should be, once that's in, a flush door. Very important. Okay, so when you're putting in the casters, which is the next step after you slid in the doors, they just slide right in. They twist nice and easy until you get one that doesn't twist nice and easy, and then you need to use the little wrench that came in the packet with you. But now that this one's just going in nice and easy, we don't have to worry about it. And continue and put the other 3 in. Okay, so it's important that the casters are the same height, so this is the easiest way to make sure of it. You can just adjust the wing nut down at the bottom to be the same level as the nut that you've already put in, or the caster you've already put in, and then your casters will all be the same length. All right, so this is what it should look like just before we get ready to put the bottom on. So we should have the doors in, we should have the tip out tray tightened, and the casters on. Okay, the next piece to put on is the bottom piece. So as you'll see, there's one small hole on the side, and then there's larger holes on the other side. You're going to want the larger holes facing up so that you can use RTF fittings on these points. So you'll need your 8s, your 9s, and your 14s to put the bottom on. Okay, so now I have the RTF fittings in, and I have the number 14 screws in, and I'm getting ready to put it on top of the cart. However, if you'll notice, there's not a dowel here for the other side of the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and put those remaining dowels for the doors on first before we put the bottom on. Okay, so small little tip. Just a second ago, this wasn't going down all the way. I simply opened the door and it allowed the piece to fall into place. The same thing happened on that side. So open the door, it'll fall into place. Okay, so the RTF fittings are in, the screws are in, we've tightened all that. When you shake the cart, it should be very sturdy. It shouldn't have a lot of wiggle to it. The door should open and close easily, and we'll get ready to flip it over and finish the rest. Okay, so now we've flipped the cart over. We still don't have the shelf in. It does help to flip it over with the extension up so you don't pinch any fingers. So on this side, we will be ready to put in the tip out trays. That's what we're going to do next. So why don't you grab those and put the tip out trays on. Okay, this is what it should look like once you put the trays in. Notice that the screws are still standing up, so we'll have to tighten those in just a little bit. But if you'll notice, when I close this, it kind of slams shut. We don't want it to slam shut, and we're going to use part number 21 to do that. There are two pieces, and they're kind of stuck together. I just tore mine apart. Obviously, I didn't tear them evenly, but I don't think that matters. We're just trying to get it to have a softer close. Okay, so you'll see I placed my cushions right along the edge so that they don't hit that mechanism right up there. I did the same thing to the other side, so when we close it, it's softer. We still need to tighten up these screws. So you may be asking how in the world you're going to tighten the screws of the tip out tray when not even a screwdriver would reach in there. We simply just go through the drawer side. Can't tell what I'm looking at, I know. But go through the drawer side and just tighten the screws that way. Alright, so I've turned the cart around so that the empty drawer side is on my side, and we're going to go ahead and put the shelf in on the inside. And there we have it. Should look just like that. Alright, let's build a drawer. Okay, so we're going to want to make sure that the holes on this side will match up with the holes on this side. We had them mixed up before, so we want those to go together. Alright, so your drawer should look like that once you put the two sides on, and then we will slide the drawer bottom in and pick back up after that. Screw on the drawer slides on the outside. These are RTF fittings. This side, the arrow will point toward where you're screwing in. Do you see it where my thumb is? And then this is where we'll do the quarter of a turn to make it stay. For all of you that didn't know what an RTF fitting was before now, you put the threaded end into the front of the drawer, and then the screw end goes in here, or if I can get it there, and then we tighten this a quarter to a half of a turn, and then it locks it into place. So we're going to do that all the way around. See, because I have them all in, and it wasn't easy. I had to use a little elbow grease to get them in. It's a tight fit. On the fittings, remember, have the you probably can't see it there, but there's a little bitty arrow have that facing toward where you're going to put the screw in, because then that's what locks it into place. Okay, so the RTF fitting is in there and it's loose, and so is the screw. So you just turn it with a flathead or a Phillips, whichever, until it's tight, and then your drawer is done. Now, the last piece, we need to put on the drawer slides, and then we're done, y'all. Okay, this is the right side of the drawer. This is the drawer slide. This is how it goes on. So you have your top screws, then you screw it in, and you can see on the right side, the side closest to the flip-up extension, the little tool thing to get it out is in the back and closest to the top. On the other side, to the back, this is open, so it can slide in. To the back, it's down. Screwed in, you can see where I messed up. And so this is the left side. That's what it should look like. Slide the drawer in. Okay, I may have assumed, but don't forget to put on the handle for the drawer. Now, when you put the drawer in, it's going to go in, but then it might stop. There might be a spot where it doesn't feel like it can go any further, and you wonder if you've done something wrong. That happened to me earlier, so I had my husband check it out, make sure I didn't mess up assembly, and I just needed to push it in and get it greased up and pull it out again, and it was fine. So there you have it. There is your built Rookie Chef Island cart. Enjoy.